In the heart of New York City during the early 1980s, three young guys came together. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to change music forever. This is the story of the Beastie Boys. Bold voices, wild ideas, and a sound that rocked the world. It all began in the heart of New York City with the raw, rebellious energy of punk rock. Michael Diamond, better known as Mike D, was just a young music enthusiast searching for an outlet. He started a small band, drawn to the aggressive sounds of distorted guitars, thrashing drums, and the do-it-yourself spirit of the punk scene. In those early days, it wasn't about fame or money. It was about making noise and being heard. Soon, he was joined by another kindred spirit, Adam 𝐊𝐒, who went by the name 𝐷𝐿. 𝐊𝐒 brought a deeper edge to the group, mixing his philosophical mindset with a love for hard-hitting bass lines. The final piece of the puzzle came when Adam Horovitz, later known as Ad Rock, stepped in. Together, they were a wild trio, loud, unpredictable, and ready to shake things up. As the gritty punk nights rolled on, something new began to echo through the alleys and clubs of the city. The streets of New York were vibrating with the birth of a fresh, explosive culture, hip-hop. In dimly lit basements and on graffiti-covered street corners, DJs were spinning vinyl, breakdancers were spinning on cardboard, and MCs were spitting rhymes with a rhythm that was impossible to ignore. It was raw, it was real, and it was taking over. Mike D, MCA, and Ad Rock couldn't help but be pulled into this rising tide. The pulse of hip-hop was different from punk, but it had the same rebellious soul. It was fast, loud, and dangerous in all the right ways. The trio's curiosity turned into obsession. They watched how the DJs looped the breaks, how the MCs commanded the crowd with nothing but their voices, and how the culture was creating its own rules. They began experimenting, taking their punk energy and channeling it into rap. At first, it was just a game, a wild attempt to rhyme over beats at parties. But something unexpected happened. It worked. The chemistry between the three was electric. Their flows were rough but real, and their attitude was unmistakable. They weren't trying to be something they weren't. They were just being themselves. And in doing so, they found a voice that cut through the noise. The sound was new. It wasn't quite punk, and it wasn't typical hip-hop either. It was loud, sarcastic, rebellious, a strange mix that somehow made perfect sense. Audiences started paying attention. The trio, now known as the Beastie Boys, had stumbled onto something groundbreaking. They didn't look like the rappers dominating the scene, but their passion and presence demanded respect. What started with punk rock was now evolving into a whole new movement, one that would soon take the world by storm. By 1983, something had clicked. The Beastie Boys had found their voice, a bold, unfiltered blend of comedy, confidence, and chaotic genius. Their early tracks didn't follow any rules. They weren't trying to imitate anyone. Instead, they mixed hard-hitting beats with distorted guitar riffs, sharp-witted lyrics, and a rebellious spirit that defied categorization. Their rhymes were laced with humor and sarcasm, but underneath the jokes was a raw energy that came straight from the punk clubs they grew up in. This wasn't just rap. This wasn't just rock. It was a new language, wild, loud, and unapologetically different. The world had never heard anything quite like it before. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1986, the Beastie Boys released License to Ill, a thunderous debut album that shook the foundations of the music industry. It wasn't just an album, it was a statement. With tracks like Fight for Your Right and No Sleep Till Brooklyn, they captured the attitude of a generation. The songs were rebellious party anthems, packed with humor, heavy riffs, and unforgettable hooks. The album skyrocketed to #1 on the Billboard charts, making history as the first rap album ever to top the chart. Suddenly, three loud, mischievous kids from New York were leading a cultural revolution, and everyone was paying attention. Their rise wasn't just on the charts, it exploded on stage. The Beastie Boys concerts were more than performances. They were full-blown spectacles. Venues packed out with screaming fans, stage dives, beer showers, but their growth wasn't just musical, it was personal. 𝐷𝐉𝐻𝐃 began to channel his fame into something far more meaningful. Moved by the plight of the Tibetan people, he became an outspoken advocate for human rights and nonviolence. He founded the Milarepa Fund and organized the Tibetan Freedom Concerts, bringing together thousands to stand up for a cause the world was barely paying attention to. His activism revealed a quieter, deeper side of the Beastie Boys, a side that stood for peace, for justice, for compassion. They weren't just wild entertainers anymore. They were maturing men with convictions, using their platform for something bigger than themselves. By the late 90s and into the 2000s, the Beastie Boys had become global icons. Their music reached fans on every continent. They won Grammys, took home MTV Awards, and performed sold-out shows across the world. From Japan to Europe to South America, people sang their lyrics, danced to their beats, and embraced their message. But even as the stages got bigger and the crowds louder, they never lost touch with who they were. No matter how high they climbed, they never pretended to be perfect. They stayed grounded, self-aware, sometimes silly, always sincere. What made the Beastie Boys truly legendary wasn't just their sound or success, it was their integrity. They made mistakes and they owned them. They laughed at their own past, apologized when they got things wrong, and used their journey to grow. Through every album, every tour, and every transformation, they remained authentic, not just to their fans, but to themselves. Their story wasn't just about music, it was about evolving, caring, and standing for something. And in doing so, they inspired not just a generation of musicians, but a generation of human beings. In 2012, the world lost more than a musician. 𝐷𝐉𝐻𝐃 passed away after a long battle with cancer. He was just 47. For those who knew him, and for millions who didn't but felt connected through his music, the loss was devastating. 𝐊𝐶 wasn't just the backbone of the Beastie Boys. He was their soul, his curiosity, his conscience, his quiet leadership. It all gave the group a sense of purpose beyond the beats and the rhymes. When he was gone, something essential was missing. The trio had always been three parts of one voice, and without him, continuing simply didn't feel right. Out of deep respect for their brother and friend, the Beastie Boys made a decision that few bands have the courage to make. They stepped away. No farewell tour, no reunion hype, just silence. Dignified and real. It was the end of an era, not just for the band, but for an entire chapter of music history. But even in their quiet exit, they made a statement. Some things matter more than fame or legacy, loyalty, love, and knowing when to say goodbye. Their story didn't fade. It etched itself into history with grace. But the music? The music never stopped. Their influence is woven into the DNA of modern music. From Eminem's sharp lyricism to Linkin Park's genre-bending style, echoes of the Beastie Boys are everywhere. They broke down walls between genres, races, and expectations. They showed that rap didn't have to fit a mold, that it could be wild, weird, political, hilarious, and painfully honest all at once. They opened doors for artists to be fearless, to have fun, and to be unapologetically themselves. More than anything, the Beastie Boys left behind a message, not just through their lyrics, but through how they lived, grew, and changed. They taught us that music isn't just about sound, it's about spirit, about saying what's true, even if your voice shakes, about owning your past, growing into your future, and never losing your edge. They were punk kids who became hip-hop legends, jokers who turned into activists, and rebels who left behind a legacy of truth, laughter, and love. The Beastie Boys are gone, but their echo, it's forever. From punk roots to hip-hop legends, the Beastie Boys never followed rules. They made their own path, loud, wild, real, and unforgettable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment your favorite Beastie Boys song, and subscribe for more music stories.